You good? About 2 years ago, I began working at this huge building, and it was very, I quickly realized that there was no way that I was going to know where everything was immediately, because it was such a large building with so many doors. The building where Sanctuary Incorporated is an old motel. So I like to think there are probably 50 different little rooms and 50 different bathrooms. So I thought the best way for me to get my bearings was just to start opening doors and get lost and try to find my way back down. So I started on my journey, and I kept opening doors, and I found myself upstairs on the second floor where our residents are, the emergency shelter residents. And I went to go push on a door, and as I'm pushing, I could feel someone else pushing on the other side. So very quickly I stepped back, and sure enough, the door swung open, and it was one of our clients, and she had her arm full of laundry. And so she did one of those swinging the door open and then catching it with her foot. Her arm's still full of laundry. Some of you may know that move. And right behind her, there was a child, arms full of laundry, walking through the door. Behind that child, there was a second child coming through the door, arms full of laundry. Behind the second, there was a third. There was a third little one walking through the door, arms full of laundry. And as the third one made his way through the door, the mom let her foot go and very quickly became the leader of the line again. For the most part, this family walked by me without really paying attention. That is, except for the smallest, the third, the little one. As he walked by me, he caught my eye, and he walked right over to me. So just instinctively, as he's walking, I bent down. And as he got closer to me, he stretched his arms out. So just instinctively, I stretched my arms back out. And all of a sudden, he transferred all of his laundry right onto my arms. And very quickly, I became the fourth little duckling in a row. And I began to be led through the shelter hallways by a mother. She came to a door I had not opened, I had not tried, and it was the door to her own shelter room. She opened the door, and it was about a third of this space that we're in now. And in that shelter room, I could already see a bathroom. I could see an indention with a pole that was her closet, and two trundle beds, two twin beds with the trundles popped up for her children. She opened up her shelter room door, and she walked right over to her bed and dumped the laundry. First one followed suit, dumped the laundry. Second one went right over to the bed, dumped the laundry. And the third little one went all the way to the bed, looked at me and said, "Right there." I had never seen this family before. I'd never met the little boy. But something told him that because I was at Sanctuary, I was a safe person. I wasn't at Sanctuary when his family moved into our shelter in the residence area. But I'm told that when the little boy did arrive, he didn't speak. He didn't talk to anybody. He didn't want anyone too close to him. He would always back away from you. And if there was anything loud, if there was someone shouting or something dropped and made any kind of loud noise, he would ball up and shake a little bit. I would venture to say that this was the first home that this little one has ever had where he could trust just anybody walking down the hallway of his house on laundry day. My name is Marian Brown. I am the Executive Director of Sanctuary, and I've been there for 2 years. And I serve with much gratitude under appointment of Bishop Lindsay Davis as an Extension Minister. I am an ordained elder in full connection of the Kentucky Annual Conference, and I've been here about 4.5 years. Came to the Kentucky Annual Conference via Virginia Annual Conference, and before that, Louisiana Annual Conference. So I have the pleasure of being part of all three of those. I consider them all home. Sanctuary Incorporated is a domestic violence and sexual assault crisis center. We serve 9 counties of the Penny-Royal Area Development District. So that's Caldwell, Christian, Crittenden, Hopkins, Lyon, Livingston, Muhlenberg, Todd, and Trigg. Those are our areas. So any victim of domestic violence or sexual assault in those 9 counties of the Penny-Royal Area Development District, we can serve them completely free of charge. We have incredible staff. We have staff for legal advocacy, for medical advocacy, for individual therapy, for group counseling, for safety planning, and for community education programs, including going out to schools and helping young ones learn more about keeping themselves safe. We have great educators who provide all sorts of education programs to things like internet safety, bullying, domestic violence 101. So we are in schools doing prevention. We're trying to help others know more and increase awareness, but also how to keep them safe too. A little bit about medical accompaniment, medical advocacy. This is on the rape crisis side of Sanctuary Inc. What that means is when a victim presents at a hospital as a victim of sexual assault, they call Sanctuary, and we send an advocate out to be with that victim during that time. We're not a member of the medical team. We're not a lawyer. We're not a detective. We are there simply to be a presence for that victim and to help that person with what he or she may need. On the legal advocacy part, this is something that we do. Again, we're not lawyers, we're not detectives, but we have a presence in the court systems so that we can go and stand with victims and just offer another support just for him or her to say, what is it that we can do? Can we help understand some of the language that people are using? Do you understand the proceedings that are happening? Do you understand what the judge is trying to do? They're helping you keep your children. They're asking you about custody. We can just help navigate through some of those systems for the victim. But we do serve men and women and children. We can only shelter in our residents, women and their dependents, but we do serve men, women, and children. And when people think about their local domestic violence shelter in particular, they just think it's an emergency shelter program. But we offer so much more than that. And that's one thing that I really want you all to hear this morning, is that we can offer people in all those 9 counties non-residential services. You don't have to live with us for us to help you. Last year alone, we sheltered 170 women and children. 170 women and children. But through our non-residential program, through the legal advocacy, the medical advocacy, the education programs, all that outreach counseling that happened in those 8 other counties where the shelter is not located, we reached thousands and thousands. Our numbers were literally over 4,000 people. And that's in a 12-month period. It's pretty amazing to think about the scope of work for one particular shelter and one particular rape crisis center. One thing that we do offer is EPOs, emergency protective orders. On nights and weekends and holidays when the courthouse is closed, a female victim who needs help immediately, a protective order, they can come to Sanctuary. Some of our staff have been deputized so that we can do the paperwork, do everything online, and we have a great relationship with our judges there in Christian County, and they respond to us within about 30 minutes, and a victim can be protected at 2 in the morning if necessary. Yeah, it is really amazing. We have a great relationship with the police department of Christian County. They are a huge help to us. They help bring people to us very safely without asking a lot of questions. And then when we need help, they're right there to help us. So it's a a really good relationship that we've been able to establish. Sanctuary is 31 years old. So there's definitely a reputation there in Hopkinsville and Christian County and the Pennyroyal Area Development District that we are the expert in this field, and they use us, thankfully, for that. As United Methodists, we know about a good connection system. We're all connected. Believe it or not, Sanctuary is a part of a connection. We are a member of 2 different coalitions in the Commonwealth: the Kentucky Domestic Violence Association and the Kentucky Association of Sexual Assault Programs. We call that KDVA and KSAP, if you ever hear one of those names. It's a DV world and a sexual assault world. Sanctuary is one of 15 domestic violence shelters. We are sponsored, we are supported, we are a part of that coalition of KDVA. We are also one of the 13 rape crisis centers of KSAP, of the sexual assault side. Sanctuary just happens to be fortunate enough to house both of those centers in the same location. Not every 15 shelters is going to have a rape crisis center attached to it. But here's the wonderful connection. Every county is served by a rape crisis center, one of those 13 centers, and every county is served by one of those 15 domestic violence shelters. So that means no matter which county you are living in, or you are serving in, or you are working in, if you become a victim, a family member becomes a victim, or someone comes in for counseling or help or identifies with you, I have been victimized, there is a number, there's a local person that you can talk to provide free services for that man, that woman, or that child. So that is a really nice piece of Sanctuary. Domestic violence centers and rape crisis centers, these 15 and 13, if you go to one of those, that you know that you're going to receive the same good quality services by someone in the field who knows the work and that can provide good therapeutic healing for that victim. As a part of those coalitions, one thing that the directors do, one thing that the board does and the directors of those 2 different coalitions do, they look at different bills that come up and they think about different issues that can help make victims safer. And there are 2 things that, 2 bills that are coming up in particular in January that we are really interested in and I would like for you all to know about. One is it's a bill that has come up over and over again. I think it might be the 5th or 6th year. We've been trying to get this bill passed for quite some time. We think it's going to be House Bill 8. That's what we think it's going to be. John Tilley, Representative John Tilley, who is from Christian County, from Hopkinsville, we're really proud of that. He is sponsoring this bill. Members of KDVA, members of KSAP, we're all going to try to just flood that room on January 8th so they can see our presence, so they can see us, so they will know how important this particular bill is to us. It is a dating violence bill. I mentioned to you the emergency protective orders. Right now, a victim can only receive a protective order if you are living with a person, married with a person, or have a common child together. So this leaves out the entire dating world. So let's just make a situation a bit. Let's say there's a 19-year-old going to college. She's been dating somebody for quite some time. All of a sudden, he makes an assault. Verbal, physical, sexual, whatever it may be, he makes an assault on her. She feels threatened. She wants to take out a protective order. She cannot. The only way she can right now is if she has a baby with them, or if she's living with them, or if they're married. So it leaves out this incredibly vulnerable population. We all think it's time that Kentucky protect women who are just dating, men who are just dating. We believe that everyone deserves the right to be protected, not just those who are living together, married together, or have a common child together. So that is the bill that's up there. There have been a lot of people looking at the language. There have been a lot of people who are doing studies. They have shown that this bill will save money, will add extra layers of safety and support, but all of the things that we thought may be issues or that people were worried about, those aren't there. This is strictly about protecting people. And so this is what we really would like for all people to know, that it's up there. Just as a FYI, 49 other states have this bill. Kentucky's the last one. Last year, I think it was 47 or 48 other states didn't have it. We were one of 2 or 3 that still didn't have it, and now we're by ourselves. We're the only ones without it. So if you could help us, call your representatives, call your senators and say, we believe in House Bill 8 or whatever it may be, that EPO bill. We believe in this dating violence. We believe that these people need to be protected, because we know that they listen to those. They get a slip or they get an email. Every time you call, a slip is made for your representative, senator, and that makes an impact, that makes a difference. And so we're going to just try to, when the time comes, we're going to try to flood those legislators with all of that. But if we could, part of what I would like to see on a personal level and professional level is if we could add the United Methodist name to endorsing the safety of these victims. That would be very wonderful. It would such an impact to have the United Methodist Church, the Kentucky Annual Church, United Methodist Church, on that list of endorsing agencies of this bill. I think that would really show a great show of faith. The other one is a housing bill, and Joni Jenkins is going to sponsor it. And what it does, there are lots of different protections out there in other states for victims who have any kind of domestic violence or sexual violence in their homes. If they're renting, they can be released from that lease without any penalty. In Kentucky, that's not here yet. So if you're victimized and you need to leave your house, but you're still under a lease, technically you're the owner of that home or apartment complex, they don't have to let you out of your lease. And so there are a lot of victims in a very dangerous situation who cannot leave because they can't afford to leave. They would still have to pay out 11 months left of their lease. And so how many people can just pick up everything they have and go find another house while you're still paying 11 months on another lease? And so this would allow people to break a lease if necessary, and it would also allow them even to change keys or change your lock on your door. It would just allow some freedom so that a victim can make sure that he or she is living in a safe place, and then they're not confined to a place of danger just because of the logistics of the paperwork or the lease that they signed, because they signed that not knowing what would happen in that home. I mean, we all believe in a safe space, and that certainly is something important. Again, this isn't a Republican issue in my mind. It's not a Democratic issue in my mind. It's not something to play games about and jockey the bill around. You give me this, you give me that. This is basic safety for people, for sometimes the least of these, the most vulnerable. And isn't that what Jesus called us to do? Was to say, yes, we do support you and we do love you and we think you're a person of grace. You are a child of God and you don't need to be in a violent situation. So again, that's why I'm coming to you all on a personal level as a part of the conference, but then also on a professional level to say it would be really wonderful if we could add your name to those list of supporters for victims. And again, this isn't just asking for support for victims of intimate partner violence just for my area that I serve. It's for the entire Commonwealth, because there's a Sanctuary Inc. equivalent everywhere you are. Everywhere you are in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, there's someone that is doing the same exact work under KDVA and under KSAP. Just to let you know what happened to that family, that little boy that I mentioned, we'll call his mom, we'll name her Melissa. Melissa, when she came into Sanctuary, she had a few goals. Her advocate said, what are your goals for yourself when you're here? And she had 3 goals, and one of them was to balance a checkbook. She had never done that. And one was to find a job. And one was to find a place to live that she could pay for independent of anyone else. She had never lived independently before. So she began going to different groups that Sanctuary offers, one in particular, our financial planning group. And our advocate, our staff during that financial planning group time, did teach her how to balance her checkbook, but by the end of her time at Sanctuary, Melissa could also make up her own yearly budget. And when she made up her whole yearly budget, she realized how much she could afford for rent. And very quickly, she found an apartment by the job that she got. It wasn't very far, and it wasn't very far from the schools that the children were attending. So she found somewhere to live that she could afford by herself. When she was leaving, she stopped by my office just to say thank you. She said, thank you for all of the staff. And she named all the staff that had been such a big help to her. And she was crying, saying, I can't believe this is fabulous. And she said, but I'm so embarrassed. I have this wonderful place to go and nothing to put in it. So very quickly, we got her advocate, the staff person that had been working with her and helping her along this part of her journey. And her advocate came and said, yes, let's go down to our basement. Now, our basement in this building is huge. And this is where we keep all of our donations. And people bring things to us like dressers and tables and beds and wonderful things. And when they move or when they get new china, we get all the old china and silverware and glasses and tablecloths. They bring everything to us. And so the advocate took this client downstairs, and the client began to pick out things that she liked. And I am very, very happy to tell you that when Melissa and her 3 children left Sanctuary, they left with a table, with 4 chairs, with a bed frame, and the bed mattress, all of the linens, a lamp, and a bedside table. And her second child happened to find a Dora backpack, just like the one she had left at her house. And so a Dora backpack walked out of our building as well. I'm very proud to be serving Sanctuary on behalf of all of the board of directors of Sanctuary and KDVA and KSAP. I appreciate the time that you've given me this morning, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I did have just a quick one. The second bill you mentioned, what was the name of that one? Do you have a number for?
There's a number, and I couldn't remember. I think it's going to be. We know that Joni Jenkins is going to sponsor it, but I don't know that we have a number on it yet. John Tilley has been sponsoring the dating violence bill, and I think it's been House Bill 8 for a number of years.
What's been the hold up on it?
I'm sorry?
Why has it been so long that it's been passed?
There have been lots of reasons. It wasn't given a hearing in the Senate Judiciary Committee. The chairperson just wouldn't hear it. And now there's been a change. Last year, Senator Whitney Westerfield, also from Hopkinsville Christian County, is now, he was elected as senator and made chairperson of that Judiciary Committee, and he's agreed to hear it. So that's a big breakthrough. Some of the problems were, honestly, financial. They were worried about what it would cost, and we know that it will save money. Just bottom line, it will save the courts and the police departments money because we can do an EPO much earlier, and the violence will end, and eventually they will not be in court for other things. There was a concern that what does dating really mean? How do you define dating? How do you know if someone's dating, or can they just falsely accuse a guy in their class they don't like? So they had to really develop a good definition for dating. And they were worried that it would protect certain populations in the community, but really we didn't really get into that too much because a lot of people are already protected by this. If you live with someone, you're already protected. So we're really just going back to a dating thing. And the other concern too was if you have young ones in school together, let's say 2 15-year-olds in the same high school, what does it mean to keep them separated? The order would have to really specify being in the same school with your perpetrator. Where's one going to sit in the cafeteria? Where's, talk about lunch shifts. I think some of that got a little complicated. Would you have to remove a student from a school and put the student in another school district? So they worked some of that out to say the EPOs can actually be crafted on a case-by-case situation, and the judge has the right to do that. The judge can order 20 feet, 500 feet, whatever the case would need. So those have been some of the hang-ups.
I'm a little confused about that. I thought that, I didn't know there were restrictions on EPOs. I thought I could get one of each George if I thought he was threatened.
If the two of you live together, you could.
So the only persons who can get EPOs are married couples?
Those who are living together, you're married, or you have a common child together.
Yeah.
What if you're divorced without children?
Yes, because you've been married.
Because you've been married.
Yes, you were once married. But think about a 60, I told you about a college student. Think about a 65-year-old who has been widowed or went through a divorce and they're dating again and they choose not to live with someone they've dated. They can't get an EPO either. So if you have a mother, or that wanted to date, or a father that wanted to date, that protection wouldn't be there for them either. A lot of people just assumed it would be, you could do an EPO on someone that was just bothering you, but that would be a different process. But if it's intimate partner violence and the two of you were dating, you could not.
Is this the first time for the second bill?
I've only been in this work for about 2 years, and it's my understanding that there was a version of this last year. But I think this year, it's going to pass it. We're always taught it's going to pass this year. I think there was some version of it last year that they worked on. Mm-hmm.
And so the best way for us, and to help our people of the conference know, is basically get in touch with their representative and to tell them that they're in favor of this.
Yes, it really is. And this year, it's these two things that we're really looking at. Next year, it might be something that we are really, there's something that we really need on the table too. So I think it would be really nice too to start to build a network of names and contacts so that when the time comes and we need a push to say, okay, they're going to hear this bill tomorrow. They're going to vote on the bill tomorrow. So today's the day to call. Today, they're in Frankfurt and they're sitting at their offices waiting. I didn't realize how organized all this really is. It is a massive political thing. And if we can have a go-to network, if we can have a go-to person even, that I could say, okay, I'm going to email the justice and advocacy teams and say, today's the day, get the word out, and just have a spread of information like that. That's going to be what's going to help us. And if there are people just hanging out around Frankfurt on January 8th and they want to come see what happens, they can come and be a presence with us on January 8th. But it would be nice to even know how to help garner all that support in those local United Methodist churches. I have a feeling if more people knew about this, they would pick up the phone.
They would know. Just so we're clear, we don't have the authorization to speak on behalf of the whole entire Kentucky Conference.
No, of course not.
It goes to annual conference. But we could, if we decided within our team, that we could say the
Justice and Advocacy.
Conference of Kentucky Justice and Advocacy team supports this.
And I should have been more specific. That would.
So, but if you know of something that's coming like maybe didn't get passed this year, but you know in time, I think that deadline's like in March for us to actually vote for it at annual conference, which I know is a long
That would be
time.
great.
But we can put that in as a proposal and, have the conference vote on it.
And if we did that, would I come through you all and bring it in front of you all?
It's another process. It's
Okay.
a whole nother,
To get it, I was wondering how you would get it sponsored, because it would have to go through, wouldn't it? Some committee before it
Yeah,
got to the
yes.
planning, that
Yes.
got to the,
it's on resolutions, petitions and resolutions, but it would be great to have a sponsoring group, and so I think this would be the natural place for that to happen.
great.
Do you know a time on January 8th when that hearing's going to be? Or is that to be determined?
If there's a time, I do not know it, but I can get that information to you very easily.
Okay.
Very, very easily. And if you're interested, I can also send a few talking points via email about the different bills. Just so if you wanted to share those with anybody, we could.
We can put them on our website as well. So.
We can even offer, if it would be helpful, a script to say, when you call, this is the exact thing to say, and it makes it very, very easy. We could provide a script if that would help. I think what I've noticed about the work that I'm in now is that no one comes to Sanctuary through the doors and leaves the same way. Everyone leaves changed. They're affected, I should say. And so what is really going to help too is going back and finding your local domestic violence or rape crisis center and just walk in and have a conversation with the director and just let them know you're there, let them know the churches are there, because I think too, being able to see a Melissa equivalent is going to make a difference for a church member. We have a beautiful map, one for the rape crisis side and one for the domestic violence side. And it's a beautiful map of the Commonwealth divided up into development districts with the exact places that serve. So if that's something you'd be interested, I can email that to Tammy and maybe she could pass that along so you would see what's in your district.
Do you know when the bills will be, one of them will be assigned a number?
I don't. But I can get
And will both of
that.
those hearings be on January 8th?
Probably not.
Okay, probably the House Bill number 8 will be January 8th.
Right. And I'm getting information from Carol Jordan. If any of you are familiar with University of Kentucky, she works there. She is working with us in this area to help us with all of that. And so when everything officially has its number and the times and the dates, I can get all that to you, if that works for you. Let me do that.
Any other questions?
Is there a process by which justice and advocacy could endorse these? Would we even have time when the bills receive their number?
Yeah, I think we could go ahead and vote on knowing what the bills are. But we can vote and say that we're in favor of that. And then once we find out the exact number, we can just attach our name to that. If everybody's comfortable with it.
And part of that is agreeing to send out a blast, call to action blast via the email. One of the ways we do is send a blast that here's what to do, here's the information she shared with us, here's the script even of what to say on behalf of justice and advocacy. We're asking them to do that, so that I think that would be another way to endorse that as well.
Did we send that to the district superintendent or
Probably do like a net news.
on that news?
Mhm.
Okay. And you're going to send us the script?